this afternoon we've got a very special opportunity to hear from the future. And of course, there's been some key themes that have come out of this. We've talked about the future, we've talked about the technology involved, and we've talked about the skills needed for the future workforce. Ladies and gentlemen, I have great pleasure in presenting you with the future, the technology, and the skills of the future. Can I ask you to welcome Caleb, Emma, and Jiayi. Now, this is pretty intimidating and pretty humbling, I've got to be honest with you. These guys are seriously talented. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from you this morning about what you think the future looks like for you and for the community in relation to the energy transition journey that we're on. But just for the benefit of the audience, why don't you each take about 30 seconds just to quickly talk about what you've been studying or what the themes that you're interested in terms of your studies. Perhaps starting with you first, Emma.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here. I'm a proud student of UWA, and this year I finished my honours thesis in chemical engineering. And for my research, I was looking at the freeze-out of impurities from hydrogen, which is a critical issue for hydrogen liquefaction. And next year, I will be doing my Masters of Engineering at UWA.
Fantastic. Jiayi.
Thank you. I'm Jiayi. Currently, I'm working as a PhD candidate in Curtin University. My research is about the green hydrogen production through water electrolysis. What I'm doing is now trying to use extensive water sources to make green hydrogen production more cost-effective and easier to scale up in Western Australia.
Great. Caleb.
Yeah, so similar to Emma, I did an engineering degree through the Bachelor of Philosophy at UWA in Mechanical Engineering and Physics, and then moved on to the Master of Professional Engineering. I had some industry experience, exposure with Fortescue throughout my time studying, and I really have become quite accustomed to the innovation space and did my thesis with the Centre for Engineering Innovation at UWA. My particular field of interest has become fluid mechanics and applying that to offshore renewable energy space, in particular floating offshore wind.
Fantastic. And look, while you've got the floor, Caleb, why don't we start with the first question? And in 20 years' time, what do you think the future looks like, or what do you see your vision for the future looking like?
Absolutely. It's a big question, and it's incredible to have the opportunity to share this with such an audience. I see as sort of a slightly naive but optimistic young person that the future is really bright for WA. I think that we are positioned to become a global leader within the energy transition. We have the natural resources to do that. We have the expertise within energy exportation to be able to move forward in that field, and as well as the technical expertise to be able to shift and upskill into the new areas of the energy transition. Myself personally, I see obviously first specifically impacting the offshore wind space and applying that fluid dynamics sort of interest through my DPhil research at Oxford, which I'll be starting next year. And then more generally applying that engineering skill set to make technical decision makings within the field of engineering and uncovering the facts for policy to be making within the energy transition space.
It's really exciting. Offshore renewable energy is obviously going to be a key factor in terms of making sure that we are getting the opportunities to generate the energy we need. So it's a really exciting area. But also, I mean, one of the key things that we're talking about at the moment around the generation of hydrogen is the fact that we need potable water, pure water, to make that happen. And Jiayi, your research has taken us into the opportunities that might come from using unpotable water. So tell us about what your vision for the future looks like.
Well, first I think that if we want to use green hydrogen for industry production, we need first to make the hydrogen cost-effective to use. And currently the water electrolyzer technologies are very expensive. It's because we need to use ultra-pure water, and considering that the electricity consumption is relatively high for driving the electrolyzer. So what I'm doing is now, first I'm seeking for feasible ways to use extensive water sources like the seawater, river water, lake water, rainwater, and tap water. All these water resources are accessible in Western Australia. Secondly, that I'm also working on improving the electrical efficiency by recycling the electrolysis heat during the electrolysis. So I pretty enjoy my research because it can practically cut down the cost for green hydrogen production.
And electrolyzers are going to be such an important part of the hydrogen production future. And Emma, you're doing a range of work in that area. So for you, what does the future look like? What are we going to be doing in 20 years' time?
I see WA as a clean energy superpower, which has certainly been echoed today, and that's really exciting. I think we have a massive opportunity in green steel to integrate that with our hydrogen. I also see a great opportunity for collaboration, and that's also excited me about today. Not just within WA, but also internationally, where there might be skills and technologies that could help us make our projects more viable. I also think that we can have much more genuine collaboration with our First Nations people, and that collaboration shouldn't just be because we have to do it. So I'm really lucky to know a man called Dwayne Mallard, and he talks about the Indigenous culture being about reciprocity. It's both ways, and it's built from trusted relationships. And while I'm not an expert in this field, I think it's something we can reflect on and hopefully make that a really genuine contribution from this industry, such a massive opportunity.
That's fantastic. Look. And we've heard from a range of speakers today. From what you've heard today, what has inspired you, but also what has challenged you in terms of your outlook for the future?
It's been an amazing day to hear all the speakers, and particularly I've met some really interesting people outside this room. So I met someone who was looking at hybrid energy systems with gas and with solar, which was really interesting. And just some other discussions I've had, particularly around the challenge of industry going into schools that may have a preconceived idea of what the industry is, while trying to convince those students to come to the industry, which I wasn't quite aware of before, so that certainly challenged me.
So as you'd be aware, we're actually being live streamed into some high schools across Western Australia today. So what would be your message to those high school students?
Don't be afraid of coming into the industry. You are smart enough. You don't have to necessarily be an engineer. There are people in this room right now who are lawyers, business managers, marketing, HR, so many different fields we need to pursue this energy transition. So if you really actually want to make a difference, actually come and work, whatever field is your strength.
That's a fantastic message. And Caleb, you're taking your studies across to the UK, going to study at Oxford coming up shortly. What are you looking to experience by engaging with students and thinking abroad?
Absolutely. I think there is a lot that we can learn from parts of Europe in terms of the desperation that they had to go through when Russian gas exports were cut off, and the incredible things that a few of the countries in that area did in order to overcome that challenge. And the same level of desperation should likely be taken to the energy transition, and I don't think we've fully awoken to that reality. I think that by being exposed to that environment in which energy is quite limited and quite a valuable resource in that part of the world, and coming and bringing those values back to WA, and where we're obviously a very energy-rich state, then we can take a lot of learnings and be quite beneficial for our industry.
Absolutely. And Jiayi, you're studying at Curtin. I studied at Curtin as well, so you and I have a little bit over these two people who are at Crawley Tech. I had to get that in, right? So tell me about the work that you're doing as now for your PhD. So you're taking an academic route in terms of your studies, and you'll be working, one assumes, with undergraduates and master's students. What are you hoping to pass on to them as a pathway for their careers, particularly in the renewable energy space?
Yeah, currently as a PhD student, I'm also working on some new energy-related training program for undergraduate students. Working on these programs may help young talents to gain advanced skills to better perform energy transition in industry. During this process, I also learned how to communicate and spread the knowledge and methodologies for promoting the new energy technologies. And during this process, I just focus more on the applied research. For doing research, or we normally focus on fundamental research, that is to know why. But for the applied research, actually, yes, it can be more valuable because it can create value for industry. So now I just focus more on this part.
Yeah, and I guess so. Pure research is about the why, applied research is about the how. Yeah. And what we've heard from a lot of the speakers today is that in relation to a lot of the renewable energy technologies, they are still evolving, and we are on a journey as a community. It's extraordinary when you think about the number of businesses that engage, particularly FFI, that you've done some work with, Caleb, that are going headlong in a particular direction, all knowing that at some point, some bright spark like you guys might come up and say, actually, I found a different way to do it. We're all heading this way now. And that's an extraordinary journey to be on. So tell us about the work that you've been doing with Initiate, which is a part of a collaboration of young engineers in Western Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. So Emma is also involved with Initiate. We had the belief that engineering education is obviously great for that technical upskilling, but there's also an element to an engineer's portfolio that encompasses social awareness and cultural awareness that is potentially missing through the university experience. So Emma and I and a bunch of university students across multiple WA universities created an organisation called Initiate that does projects for groups within the community that have a social, environmental or sort of cultural cause. So our pilot project was a community battery storage feasibility study for a local town, looking at whether it was financially and economically feasible for them to actually privately install a community battery storage facility. And although obviously we're not going to be professional engineers and deliver a service that's of a professional engineering quality, what it does do is give our students the experience of not only technically upskilling, but becoming more socially aware and understanding the consequences of the decisions they can make as engineers.
That's extraordinary. And the work that, speaking of the collaboration, Emma, you've spent some time at the National University of Singapore in 2022. So I'm really interested in the perspective of your fellow students in Singapore. I mean, they don't have the abundance of land, wind, solar that we have in Western Australia. So they would have a very different perspective on what the future energy and engineering outlook looks like.
Yeah, Singapore was certainly very progressive and very ambitious. I think Australia, talking about international collaborations, could definitely partner with Singapore, and we are doing that. One of the key takeaways I took was their interest in being part of the green shipping corridor and to push that agenda forward. WA in particular has an opportunity to help provide Singapore with that green bunkering fuel that they can then use to enhance that vision that they have.
Yeah, it's when you go to these places, you really understand what energy insecurity looks like, because there it's existential, right? Unless they have the energy inputs from other countries, they can't produce it themselves. And so I think you really get an enhanced appreciation of just how important it is. So look, we've heard from a lot of old fossils today, like myself. People who aren't at the cutting edge of their future careers. So I'm wondering if you could try to issue a challenge to the business leaders of today on behalf of the business and community leaders of tomorrow. Perhaps starting with you first, Jiayi, what would you like to see from the audience today when they leave this conference today, when they go back to their workplaces on Monday after a lovely, beautiful weekend watching Coldplay and enjoying the summer sun? What would you like to see them apply themselves to on Monday morning?
Well, I would like to say that after hearing from the speakers talking about the timely actions to promote new energy and the skilled workforce required for better deliver the energy transition, that I'm deeply inspired by the joint efforts and extensive cooperation required to promote the new energy. So I just would like to ask, so it's what's the requirement for PhD students to deliver the R&D work in industry? Yes, and because since during our research we are focusing on fundamental research and applied research, but I realized that the delivery of new energy transition requires collaboration work for different majors like the chemical engineering, mechanical engineering. So what are the requirements for the PhD student to work in industry? That's my ask.
It's a fantastic point. One of the criticisms of Western Australia, indeed all Australia, is that we don't have that same connection between our scientists and our industry that the way we should do. And there should be much greater collaboration and exchange of ideas and people between academia and industry to make sure that we are applying great new technologies to our work. Caleb, what do you expect from the old fossils on Monday morning? This is your chance. You can tell them what to do.
I think it's important that we don't underestimate not only the skills and innovation that we have here in WA's youth, but also the will and the want for our youth to actually start getting involved. I've got peers at university and just that throughout society that really want to get involved in the energy transition. So what I would ask is that you consciously create those opportunities for those energetic youth to get involved and apply themselves to it. Maybe they won't have the technical skills that the old fossils do have, but they do have the motivation and the will and the want to contribute.
Great message. And Emma?
I think that collaboration with research is super important. To elaborate on Caleb's point about students getting involved in industry, I think that we can be much more clear about where the renewable energy jobs are. So it might surprise some of you that it can actually be hard to find, to differentiate the clean energy jobs from the oil and gas if people are specifically looking for that. And for the smaller companies to be visible as well. So that's my first challenge. And if I can steal a second challenge.
Absolutely.
Young people want to buy electric vehicles. So my challenge is for us to progress the technology enough that it's affordable for young, poor students.
Uni students want more than just e-scooters. Look, this has been a wonderful opportunity to really look into not only the future of technology, but the future of workforce and the future of the skills that will be applied in that area. I want to thank each of you for your contribution today, for really showing everyone in the audience today just what a great opportunity there is and how much potential there is, not only in our future technologies, but in our future leaders. So on behalf of everyone in the room, can I thank you for your time here today? Can you please give our speakers a round of applause?